Go back to the year 2000, and this is John Antioco. I don't know if you know John Antioco. John Antioco ran a big company called Blockbuster. It was one of the hottest companies of the new millennium. It was everywhere, yellow and blue. It busted into the Fortune 500, and it was going to take over the world. And then one day he got a visit by somebody called Reed Hastings. And Reed said, "John, I have a great idea for you." So yeah, tell me more. The future is all about people getting their films and their entertainment at home. And this really confused John Antioco, because John Antioco was the king of the world. He was going to take everything over. And John really said, like, what the hell is going on here? He said, like, look, Reed, you look like a really cool guy, but I'm really busy, and I want you just get out of my office, basically. The thing with Reed is that he was a pretty stubborn guy. I mean, he just kept on going. And he really, allegedly, he had this conversation 3 times with John, and was offering Netflix that idea of his for $50 million. I think that's about 1,000 times less than it's worth today. And he said, look, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear about it. People want to go to our stores. This is really a ridiculous idea. Go back home. And so, we know what happened, right? Well, John was right for a while. Blockbuster grew further. They became an even bigger company. But then Netflix came onto the scene. So, the rest is history. We all know what happened. Blockbuster, rest in peace. And John was really happy about that somehow, or Reed, or was he not? Not sure, but let's go to 1975 for a moment. And this is, these are not exactly the people, but it's the only real 1975-ish photo I could find of a board meeting. But this is the Kodak, obviously. Remember the household name. Many of you maybe never even bought a Kodak product. Who has never bought a Kodak product here? All right. Oh, I thought more hands would go, just being shy. Okay, so something similar happened. This guy called Steve, he worked in Kodak's basement. It was kind of forgotten about. And for some reason, he got this project, and he said, like, guys, I have a breakthrough. I've got this digital camera. We don't need film anymore. It's amazing. And I wasn't at that meeting, obviously, but I think they sort of must have looked like this. They didn't really know what to do with that. And so, the arguments came coming up, like, nobody ever really wants to look at pictures on a television screen. That kind of sounds like a stupid idea. So everybody, we've been using print for 100 years. Why do you want to change that? So there you go. You had this legacy thinking again. And, well, guess who's bought Kodak film who's not an amateur photographer recently in the last 10 years? Well, I guess not. Well, maybe you have, fine. But, I guess, again, Steve had his moment, thankfully thanks to Obama, because he actually gave the guy a medal or some kind of recognition. Came very late. This guy virtually changed the world. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that these 2 phrases, I think that, or I believe that, may actually be the most dangerous beginnings of any statement that you can make in business these days. And I want to pull up these faces right now. We all know who these people are. We all know what they do. And what do these guys actually have in common? Well, there's a few things. The first thing is, well, they never really finished school. That's one uncomfortable truth that a lot of these guys actually have, but it's just there. That's the data. That's what it says. They also had this problem with the status quo. They just couldn't really accept things that were cemented as truth. They just always had to challenge that. But most importantly, they saw things in a very different way than most people. It's almost as if they lived in another world.
The matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
I just love that moment. I can't get enough of that. But that's the point. What these guys did is they figured out a way to look through that matrix. They kind of figured out what their customers wanted, even though their customers didn't even know it yet. And they did that without all this big data. It was an intuitive process. What was the process? We don't exactly know. But for sure, they did not have the luxury of big data. But somehow, that kind of thinking got them to an entirely different place. And I find that interesting because I believe that excellence is probably the definition of excellence. What I try to coach the companies I work with into is really trying to understand what lies beneath the surface, what's not obvious, how you can make these connections. We're all into data here, but sometimes we're all these data freaks. We geek out on the thing, but how do you make that understandable for an executive? And the world has changed because if Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson and Steve Jobs had what we had today 20 years ago, man, they would have dreamed of something like that. The world has changed. We have all the data we need and more than we can handle. To the point that we can actually put up technology like screens that responds to people on the street. They know exactly who's there because we have a smartphone, we have facial recognition. And what we can do is we can let that interact with our surroundings. We can weave data into experiences, into our marketing. I love this example. This is on Piccadilly Circus. This is real. This is happening right now. That's that new famous screen. It's just the beginning. See, if they only had what we have today. And it's really changing the world of business. It forces us to think differently of business. It's still business, but it doesn't have much to do with the world where our friends from Kodak and Blockbuster lived.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I love that moment. I work with my companies and I do that after a few weeks. Take the red pill or take the blue pill. Because that's really what it is for a lot of companies, especially in the traditional business space, like finance and consulting. Because it's the end of guessing. It's no longer about, and it's a really dramatic shift. And that's the point that I really wanted to make today. I hope you will come away from this talk thinking like, yeah, all this data stuff is great and it's true and it's going to grow and it's very important, but what it really means is, what does it really mean for the culture of the way we do business? Well, the fact that it changes how we work because it makes no point to assume anymore when you can access. All this brainstorm, I'm not saying that brainstorming is bad, it's a very creative exercise, it's a very positive exercise, but it makes no sense to brainstorm without the data, or rather said, it makes no sense to brainstorm without your clients in the room. There's no excuse for it. The way we run our business, the way we think about our businesses, it's changing and it's profound. It's how we define talent. Why would you want to read someone's CV? That's why that was a good step in an interesting direction. But frankly, why are we so interested in what someone did in the past when it's becoming increasingly irrelevant? What we're looking for, not someone who has all this knowledge, but someone who can access the new knowledge fast. That's what we should be looking for. It's a profound culture shift in recruiting. It's a way we define talent, because it changes the meaning of knowledge, because then we're actually handing over the work of knowledge to something that we've created ourselves. It's artificial intelligence. It's in this puberty, but it's growing up fast. And I think what we have to do is just accept the fact that our job is no longer to position ourselves as valuable because of our knowledge, because knowledge will come. So time to think and welcome ourselves into a new world. Seven minutes. Thank you very much. Hope that made sense.